How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
Brooks Running reminds us that we're all powered by something. Whether it's the me-time energy of a run after a day at the office, the electrifying energy of your first marathon, or the infectious energy of a group run with your friends. No matter what energy powers you, Brooks has gear specifically designed to unleash it. So lace up and let it out. Let's run there. Visit brooksrunning.com today to learn more.
You're the owner of a small business, which means you're also the tech guy, and HR, and personal assistant, and head honcho, and intern. You could use another pair of hands, like the experts you'll find at Verizon Small Business Days, August 11th through 17th. Get a free tech check, special deals, and more. Call 1-800-483-4428 or visit verizon.com/smallbusiness to book your appointment. Verizon Business.
Who says you can't be the topic of conversation for all the right reasons? The Hyundai Tucson Hybrid pairs bold presence with advanced technology and sleek style. It's everything you didn't know you needed in an SUV and then some. Okay, Hyundai. Visit HyundaiUSA.com to learn more.
Welcome into the Tour Coach, everybody. I'm your host, Tony Ruggiero. Thanks for sitting in. If you're passionate about the game of golf, you love the game of golf, whether you're a coach, a teacher, or a player, recreational golfer, touring professional, aspiring to get better, I think some of the information you're about to hear can help you. These are the conversations with the people that I meet, the coaches that I teach with that I find interesting, the caddies, the fitness experts, mental coaches, or players or students that I meet in my journey to help all of you play better golf. And these are the conversations we have. They're authentic, they're real, you'll laugh, some will make you think. All of it is designed to help you play better golf. I hope you enjoy these conversations, and if you like these, look, you can always go find more of our content, which is available for you on YouTube, on DewsweeperTV. That's at DewsweeperTV on YouTube. All of these, you can watch the video, but you can also watch some of our productions where you can watch us go one-on-one behind the scenes with a real player as we all work together to help people play their best. So check out DewsweeperTV. Please keep listening to the Tour Coach here. I hope you like the conversations. I'm enjoying putting the stuff out, and I enjoy this journey helping all of you play better golf. And once again, though, none of this would be remotely possible without our long-time sponsors, especially Cleveland Shrixon Golf, Mitch McConnell and McConnell Automotive, Buick GMC, Bushnell, Stokely's Midtown Garden Center, Taylor Martino and Rowan in Mobile, all of the great sponsors, and especially our new one, because there's going to be some fun nights ahead, Epic Western Tequila Drink, coming at you live from Texas. So appreciate our sponsors, appreciate all the people that sit and chat with me, and we're going to look forward to bringing you more tour coaches and more content as we help all of us play better golf there on Dewsweeper TV. All right, so year end here of the Tour Coach. I thought this would be interesting. 4 different perspectives. You've got Wayne Flint joining us with volume this time. It took us a little while to unmute this one. We got Jackson Koert. Wayno's down at his palatial beach estate on the Gulf Coast of Mexico with the security guards up there monitoring, making sure nobody's sneaking in. And we got Jackson Koert from Atlantic Beach over there in Jacksonville. Connor Luke, who is up at Bluebell part of the year and now down at TPC Prestancia down there in Sarasota, Florida. And myself here in Mobile, off for a couple days. Actually, not off. Going to teach a little today. But guys, thanks for sitting in. Jackson, let's start with you. Evaluate yourself in 2024. What did you think you did well? How do you look back at 2024, and how do you think you did?
2024 was an interesting year for a couple of reasons. Obviously, the physical issues that we went through with 2 back surgeries and having to take off a bunch of time from work wasn't incredibly beneficial on many fronts, but I think there was some good fruits that came of it. did a lot more coaching online, and I had not prioritized that previously. I think there's a bunch of advantages, besides connecting with people maybe that you wouldn't be able to coach in person, but also being able to keep tabs and stay on task with players that aren't local, that maybe come and see you a couple times a year. So that was good. Also very motivating, in a sense, just of having some business and organization and structure things in place to keep your business running when you might not be up and running. So I think those were kind of the big headlines. But then from an actual coaching standpoint, I think there was a lot of good that I learned. Every year it's good to like think about what you did good and what you did bad, kind of like what we're talking. And I need to do better with juniors. I think in the Jacksonville area, January will be 2 years here, and just need to do a better job of building it first at the club, and then kind of branching out more into the area here, and then continuing to build a team around me with, trainers and sports psychologists and physical therapists as well. So I think those are kind of the low hanging fruits for 2025.
I love it. I love it. I mean, obviously a lot of physical issues. Connor, what about you? Big year for you. Huge year for you as a development as a teacher, in my opinion. Really got over the hump, made lots of big strides, both, I think, as a teacher and in your organization and building your business. What have you learned this year? Evaluate your year.
Well, I charged most of my golf lessons this year compared to the year before. So that was new for me. I think you're right. I grew a lot as a teacher, but also in confidence in my ability just to manage the staff at the clubs that I'm at, the people, finances, all that stuff. So that was good for me. And like Jackson said too, I mean, starting to grow a little bit of a network within the industry as far as fitness and sports psychologists, stuff like that. But I think there's still a long way for me to go on the business end, on the information, golf knowledge end. So that's what I'll be looking to do next year. Just continuing to get better. That's all I care about. Teaching a bunch of golf and get better.
Wayno, what about Wayno, what about you? You've been, obviously, you're the longest tenured of the group. Obviously, you helped me so much early in my career. As you sent me a text the other day. I think you were having a bushwhacker on the beach down there, frolicking in the surf. I think what you said something about reflecting on 2024. When you look back on 2024, where do you feel like you did this year, and how do you evaluate the year?
Well, Tony, I worked yesterday. We're down here, like you said, down here at the coast, and for a couple of days, and I'm gonna head back up on Friday and get back in the swing of things. But I got a young client that's down here that lives in Destin, and his dad and him drove over, and we spent a few hours yesterday together, and man, it was a beautiful day, and we had a great session. And I got done, and that was going to be the last lesson I taught until I go back to Birmingham here in a couple of days. And I did go get a bushwhacker, and it was a beautiful day. And I was just sitting there thinking about the whole year. I try to think about my business a lot, and where am I coming up short? What am I doing good? I want to keep doing everything I'm doing that I feel like I'm doing good at. I want to keep that up, or even do more. But I'm always trying to drag more stuff into my business. Just like we all do, try to drag more technology, more stuff in that'll help us do a better job, or that we think is going to help us do a better job next year, so we can deliver more to our clients. And I think the thing that kills you is when you feel like, oh, I'm doing great and I'm not going to do anything different. I'm just going to keep doing it just like this because I'm the only guy that's got it figured out. Well, that's just a recipe for disaster, I think. I've always tried to get rid of the stuff that I'm doing that maybe isn't working, or certainly minimize that as much as I can, and add to my, to my bag of tricks, if you will, stuff that might work better or help me more. And we've I've done some of the 3D stuff like you guys are doing, and added that this year, and trying to, fiddle with that on, on downtimes where I can get proficient at maybe talking about it in a lesson instead of fumbling through it and, not doing well. So, I spend some off time trying to fiddle with those things, and um, and continue to, keep my relationships up with my clients. I think that's a big thing in our industry. And I think that's something you do so well. Your personality lends to that. And, and, uh, I've tried to do that, over the course of 30 years, and try to keep your name out there and keep your name in good standing in the golf community, where people will look to you as an expert in the field, and come try to get your advice. So I think that's a constant thing that we all need to do, is to build you know to build our uh, reputation, if you will, on a positive note, and on an expert, being an expert in the field, to where, where if the talk ever does turn to golf in the community, that your name may be one of the first, if not the first, to come up all the time. And I think that's the way you continue to keep your book full. And uh, and I think, what we all try to do. I mean, I was in the same situation Jackson was in a couple of years ago, when I hurt my leg, and I was out for a few months, and that I can tell you, and I'm sure Jackson can tell you, that's nowhere that a teaching professional wants to be, is flat on their back, not being able to do anything. And so this year I probably hit it harder than I've hit it in a long, long time, trying to catch up from 2023 when I was injured. Excuse me. So,
Yeah.
I went at it pretty hard this year, and had a
Wayne,
night.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
So like me working in two different states and being in Philly part of the year and then Florida part of the year, and maybe any of you guys can answer this, but I think next year one of the things I can do better is finding a way to make money and keep my students going that are in Philly while I'm in Florida, and vice versa. And what have you done over the years to build plans and programs that not only help your students get better, but also trickle in a little bit of finances while you're not on site? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think that's a good, that's a good question. In the past, I have always stayed in contact with my people, via phone, or, back in the day, just all we had was phone. We didn't have text and all that stuff. But now it's a little bit easier. You can stay in contact with people that maybe you haven't talked to in a couple of weeks. Just shoot them a quick text, and, ask them how their game is. I mean, one of the things that I think really helps is when you show your clients that their game is really important to you. And I've done a very, very poor job over the years of not monetizing that at all. Um, I and when I do sneak away for a weekend here and there, and even when I'm home, I'm constantly getting bombarded with video of people sending me their golf swings, and I've got to do a better job of trying to monetize that a little bit. I'm not saying I want that to become the only way I make money, but it would be nice to have a little bit of a revenue stream from all the time that we spend looking at video on our phones. I mean, we all do that. I know Tony does, and whenever he and I are together, he and I are always sharing our videos, and what do you think about this, and what do you think about that, and I think that's the way that our small group, um, has really pushed their knowledge forward, is constantly bouncing ideas off of people that we're involved with. You and Jackson and Morgan and Tony and me, just constantly throwing that back and forth, with no fear that we're ever going to be like, well, man, how did you miss this? You're clearly not looking at it right. And
Yeah.
I mean, we all bounce things off of each other in a very constructive way, and I think that really helps all of us grow. I mean, I continue I continue to grow through you guys because you guys are more tech savvy and all that kind of stuff than I am. But I'm trying to stay in the game with that stuff, and I may not be as good as you guys at it, but I'm trying. And just like you may not see things in the golf swing as quick as Tony would, or maybe I would, or Jackson, but you're trying. And there have been times when we've jumped on you pretty hard, pretty fast. But now I think you have the fear factor is gone. You think you can shoot us a video and know we're not just going to chastise you. Although there might be another one of those coming down the road. You never can tell.
Jackson, what about you? What are you going to do after this year?
Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar, zero patience for slow walkers, those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night, have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's Paris. I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Becoming the most valuable sports franchise in the world doesn't happen without risk. A man who's willing to bet it all, and the players ready to make their own luck. America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, is the story of the 1990s Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones's impact on NFL history. Featuring interviews with iconic 90s players and more. Watch America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, August 19th, only on Netflix.
So I'm going to turn the table a little bit. One weird lesson that I learned this year is like, I've always been cheap, right? I'm Dutch and I grew up in West Michigan. Like, we love saving money and getting deals, right? And I think a lot of that actually.
I wish you would have been one of my first 3 wives.
But I think that filtered over into my coaching where, like, somebody's paying me a good amount of money for an hour and I almost like tried to give them too much and give them a lot of value in that hour, but it's okay spoon feeding them and then being a better salesman just to get them to come back, because that's probably actually better for them coaching wise than almost overextending myself the information or the effort for the hour. So I know that that's kind of a weird one.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I know whenever we all get together, whether it's on one of these Zooms or, having a beer or whatever, sitting in Normandy Farms at the farmer's daughter up there with Chloe, one of those things like, but an HJ story comes out. But like, I remember one time on the back tee at Sandestin back there, he told me, he said, like, one of the hard parts of being a young teacher is somebody's paying you a good amount of money for an hour for the first time in your career, right? And you have this urge to feel like you're making sure you're giving them their money's worth, and you keep giving them information, right? And he said that one of the hardest parts about being a young teacher was understanding that you still know more than the person in front of you, and you got to be in control of that information and only give them what they need. That's the art of teaching and coaching. And Wayne, I think you spent a zillion hours around him too. But like, I think that's a real key point. And I think for young teachers listening, and also for players coming up, I had a guy the other day who we didn't do a good lesson. I mean, it wasn't very good. He was a guy seen a ton of stuff all he wanted to talk about was the 6 different styles he tried on YouTube and different things. And it's harder than ever to go down to do this. I think what we're doing, because there's so much info, but I think the art of being a great teacher is understanding how to dispense the information that we have.
Well, Tony, I think so many young teachers out there are given everything they've got because they're trying to validate themselves to the student.
Yes.
To show that they're worth what they're charging. And I think deep down inside, I think they're trying to validate themselves to themselves to feel good that
That's a good way to put it.
they're doing a nice job. Because I think whether you're a good teacher or a bad teacher, I don't think anybody really steps on the tee without trying not to do a great job. I think some people do better than others, but I think everybody's intentions are to do a nice job out there and get the person to do better. So some of the best lessons that you give as you go along in this crazy journey are ones where you don't really say a whole lot. You just focus on the one or two little things that can, maybe the cancer to the person's swing at the moment. And, you can really try to tighten those things down and get them moving in the right direction. And, I think that the lessons that we give where we don't say a whole lot, but we really get on the right thing and stay there are the ones that really produce the best results. And I think that's where we all need to be trying to get, smarter and better and learning more and then being able to condense that down to where the people on the tee that don't know as much as we do can digest that and maybe put it to good use.
I look at 24 and we could take this from wherever, but like I felt like on the golf course, as far as guys playing great, maybe wasn't my best year. But I actually feel like it was all encompassing one of my most important and one of my biggest years I ever had. I feel like I basically put all of my instruction down there at Old Palm to where I could spend more time with Colby in particular and be around him more, and have the access to work with my players of all abilities more with him and push that further along. Also felt like going into the year, I felt like with my thoughts on where the golf industry is with content and so forth, and that, we should own our own content. I invested a bunch of money and a bunch of time into having our own content and putting stuff out there. And so I think sometimes, and then obviously adding 3D. So sometimes I think you have years that where you look on the golf course and you look at some people's stats and stuff, and even money wise, you're like, it wasn't the biggest year I've ever had. But I think sometimes the things that you do for business and for learning and the work you do with your players positions you for a great year coming up. I look at where I have certain players, like I think one of the best coaching and jobs I've done, was like Luke Guthrie, watching him come back from where he is to where he has full status, but more importantly, watch how excited he is about playing. And you look at what Emilio's done and Rick in good position and Andy coming through surgery and being ready to play. And I think that's important for players and teachers, is sometimes you put a lot of work and a lot of planning and a lot of stuff into something that doesn't pay off this year, but it pays off the next year.
There's no question about that, Tony. I mean, sometimes you do a ton of work behind the scenes, if you will, and it doesn't, it feels like you're just spinning your wheels, really not getting anywhere, but you're really setting yourself up to make the most amount of money you can when the time is right to make money. And I remember Hank used to always say that people in the golf industry are trying to figure out how to make more money on rainy days and things like that. And he said that's all backwards. He said, you're only going to get so many people to play golf and things like that on rainy days. He said, what you've really got to figure out is how to make more money on the great days. And that, that's what you're saying. And that's what I think we're all trying to say is how can we position ourselves and be ready for, the 75-degree sunny days with no wind we want to teach as much golf as humanly possible and charge accordingly for it. How can we position ourselves both on a expertise level and being ready to deliver the lesson level? How can we position ourselves to get ready to do that and make more money when it's time to make money? And I think that's a interesting way to look at it, and that doesn't always pay on the front end. And I know that's hard for younger teachers because you're like, man, I need money now. My rent's due now.
Yeah, I just always go back to, and I know I'm not the most successful guy for sure, but and I mean, I think Jackson and Connor could speak to this. Not that I've never had a conversation about it, but I very seldom ever talk about money and what I'm going to make or how much I make during a year or what I charge. And I think that for players, and because we have so many players listen to this and teachers, but and I've told my players this too, if you go into the year and you're worried about how much you got to make, you're not going to be very successful. I think you got to be committed to what you do to growing and getting better. And the money generally takes care of itself. I think my least favorite conversation with any teacher is how much do you make or how much you charge. Because I think, so many factors play a role in it. You can't charge in Alabama what you could charge on Long Island. Doesn't mean you're better or you're worse. But I just think that there's a huge, you got to have a plan, whether you're a player or a teacher, and you got to prepare, and for the success in the future, you got to build it now. Jackson, what are you doing? What are you looking for? What are you most excited for in 2025 other than being able to walk around? Do we have Jackson? Did he disappear? Well, Connor, what are you excited about in 2025? We lost Jackson.
Audio. Well, just to go back to the the finances thing for a minute. I talked to a lot of my junior players about the learning mindset versus performance mindset. Kind of tune with Hank's a lot of what Hank talked about, but I think that goes for being a player and a teacher, and it doesn't have to be more complicated than that. My goal as a teacher is to learn, get better, and it's a little bit more simple rather than trying to do too much. Wayne's told me this day one, but if you make people better, you'll make money. And then once you have some of that under your belt and you really believe that, and not only believe it but live it, then it gets a little bit easier to build the plan and the structure into the financial aspect of the business side. Out there every day, just trying to figure out how to make money and maybe not being as intentful with helping people get better and learning. I think that's a hard place to be, and that maybe not beneficial for anybody, including your bank account.
Jackson, what about you?
I'm excited to play golf again, man.
I know. I can tell.
January 7th will be 2 years since I've played 18 holes, so I'm excited to get back on the links and start playing. And it's also going to be cool too because there's going to have to be some swing changes that I make, and going through some of the stuff that I've already done the last 3 months with physical therapy, and maybe having different understandings or insights behind some body movements is going to be great, I think, for me personally, but also for coaching. So I think that's going to be great. Looking forward. Honestly, the online program that we've been doing, whether you know it or not, I think has been great for me because I learn a ton just from 10 minutes, 15 minutes of you watching a video and telling somebody what to work on. So I really miss that aspect still of being mentored and shepherded under your tutelage, and Wayne's obviously as well. And looking forward to Colby's fitness thing coming out in 2025 too.
Yeah, I'm excited about that, and we'll have more of that on here. But Colby's got a great fitness app, which is going to help, I think, all of us. I was texting with him last night, help all of us be able to evaluate or, give somebody an eval quicker, maybe more efficiently, and more in lines with the stuff that, that we teach and we do. I think that's going to be big for us. I'm excited about having all of us involved in that. Excited. I'm excited. I'm the most motivated and excited coming into 25 that I've been in. I've been in several years. Really feel pretty rested for me. So that's pretty good. Wayno, what are you looking forward to in 25?
Well, T, I can't wait to spend time with you guys. Obviously, that's the highlight of the whole deal for me is getting around you guys and having some fun teaching golf. I still love to teach golf and still enjoy it. But getting around a team of guys and sharing ideas and, spending time together, with a common goal of trying to get people better. I enjoy that a lot. At my stage in the game, that's a really good, fun thing for me. I mean, I've taught, as I've taught more golf than you can shake a stick at. I've taught a bunch of free golf. I've taught all kinds of golf, right? And I still enjoy that. The money always, what I've tried to tell Connor, and I think you back in the day, the money always takes care of itself. Our job is to just get out there and be as good as we can be at making people better. And I think the magic of what we've got going is, all of us have different skill sets, and some are better at other things than the other guys. And when you put all that together and go for a common goal as a team, that's a whole lot easier and a whole lot better of delivering a great product. And the K Wayne stuff is awesome. I wish I'd have known about that stuff 25 years ago. I really do, because I don't sit back and wonder what if very often, but when I get to thinking about him and watching you and him work together and you guys spending all that time, I can't help but sit back and think, what if, back in the old Eagle Point and Deer Valley days, what if, right?
For sure.
So I enjoy that. I enjoy watching that. And like Jackson said, try to learn as much as I can from bits and pieces of watching you guys work together and just little verbiage that you pick up from the videos. And I think it's all different ways to present yourself and present your product and present your beliefs about golf. And I think the more you watch and the more you're around different people that have the same common goal, I think we all get a better way to present what we do. And I think that always turns into a positive thing for the students, for sure.
Jackson, you got any last questions or thoughts here we could go around with? You always have a good one or two.
I don't know if I've got a good zinger to end it, but if you got any other good HJs, I'm in.
What's that?
If you got any more good HJ quotes to start us off for January 2025, I'm in.
No, I mean, Wayno, I can't think, I always go back to, I really do. And I know people get tired of me saying this, but I always go back to the PGA show, always brings me back, Wayno, to that night at the Lucky Leprechaun. I mean, Connor, Jack, we ever taken y'all to the Lucky Leprechaun, Jackson?
No.
I think this is the year. I think we take you back. But anyways, Hank had been the 2004 or 5 PGA Teacher of the Year. And this, I'd been with him a few years. I was certainly ragtag. I mean, I made Connor look like Jim McClain, okay, as far as organizational skills, okay? And but I remember there was this room full of teachers. I would say, Wayno, I knew who all of them were. I probably only knew a third of them, personally, and a bunch of people. And that's where he pulled me to the side and he said, "Do you want to be a good teacher or do you want to be a great teacher? Because there's a difference, right?" And I always start, that's what made me think about this podcast when Wayne sent the Bushwhacker text the other day, reflecting on it. But I always start, New Year's Day. I really do always remember that. I always remember that night when he pulled me aside and he said that. And I won't bring up any names. Wayne knows who I'm talking about. But he pointed to 2 people in the corner and he said, "You see those guys?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Whatever they do, do the opposite." and then he pointed to Mark Wood and he said, "You see that guy?" And I said, "Yeah, Woody." And he goes, "Try to be as much like him as you can." Right. But I'll never forget, he said, but it was so much of that night really reminds me of coming into the new year and getting ready for 25. And that is, like, I think your success in this year is a great deal about your decision. Like, how good do you want to be? Do you want to be great, or do you just want to be good? And which I think is true. I think there's a difference between being great and being good. I think the path to being great is way harder. And I'm not saying I'm great. I got a long ways to go, but that's what I look at going into the year. Like, do I want to be a great teacher, or do I want to be a good teacher? There's a difference. The path to it's totally different. And I think Wayne touched on a bunch of this, and I know Jackson and Connor as well. And I think nowadays, more than ever, the job as a teacher or a coach, as well as a player, is more than just your hours on the range or the course. It's keeping in touch with your clients. It's growing what you do. It's continuing to learn, and it's all the stuff that goes into being who you are and what you do and being great.
Great. Love that, T.
Was that good?
That was great.
So anyways, I'm excited. Wayno, thanks for motivating me with that bushwhacker.
I knew how to get you going, T.
Yeah, I hadn't had a bushwhacker in a while either. But anyways, Connor, and we say this, we give you a ton of shit, rightfully so in most of the cases, right? But hell of a job this year. There were times at the beginning of the year, at the start of 24, we didn't know if you'd be with us, right? Like at the end of this year, didn't know if you'd survive, but you survived. You made it. You're well on your way. Jackson, so glad you're feeling better, but also really looking forward to the opportunities to continue teaching and coaching together. I know we've got golf camp coming up this next week. Excited to have all the guys back together. And just want to remind everybody, we got a bunch of content out there on YouTube. Check out DewsweeperTV. The Joey Merlino one with Skinny Joey. We're over 100,000 views already on that thing. So make sure you go comment on it. We're going to do a drawing at the end of the PGA show for a free set of the new Srixon irons. So everybody that likes, go comment on any of our pro work episodes. Chance to win a set of Srixon irons. Jackson, any parting thoughts?
No, T-Ball. Appreciate you and the Dew Sweepers. Wayno, thank you. Connor, appreciate you. You guys motivate me and help me more than you know.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year to you guys.